Hello and welcome to Infinite Self-Worth After Narcissistic Abuse. This channel is all about helping women to understand and recover from this insidious, deadly form of abuse. I'm Maria McMahon. I'm a clinical NLP hypnotherapist, life coach and author, and I work with professional women who want to fully take back control of their lives. Now, there's a lot of talk out there about how omnipotent and powerful narcissists are. But the truth is, they're not. They just believe they are. And until you learn that truth, you might think they are too. Now, I want you to know that you can heal. You can be happy again. You can learn the power of self-love, and you can attain infinite self-worth after narcissistic abuse. The kind of self-love that will enable you to never become a victim again. Okay, so let's get started with today's video. I hope you enjoy it and find it helpful. So today I'm going to talk about narcissistic abuse and your health, and basically the question is, can narcissistic abuse ruin your health? And I've picked a really good day to talk about health because I've come down with a cold today, so I hope I can get through this live without sneezing. Anyway, so before I say anything about health, I'll always start with the disclaimer, and if you have any physical symptoms or you think you might be suffering with any of the things I talk about in this live tonight, and then absolutely see your doctor. Okay, I am not a medical practitioner. I'm not qualified to give any kind of health advice. I am qualified to give emotional advice. Okay, so unfortunately, the answer is, of course, that yes, basically any kind of stress, even in an average relationship, can cause physical illnesses. When you're talking about a narcissistic relationship, they are typically so incredibly toxic that they absolutely tie you up in emotional knots. They destroy your self-confidence, your self-worth, your own value, all of that. And of course, that can lead to all kinds of physical problems. And I just want to share with you, one of the women who joined this group quite recently shared this with me when she answered the questions that I have everyone answer when they come into the group, so that I understand a little bit about where they're at and what they're going through. And she said, I got to the point of a nervous breakdown, ended up in hospital from concussion I caused myself for feeling I deserved to be punished. I finally fled to Oz, which is Australia, if you're not familiar with the short form, to get away. I'm doing better, but still recognize how fragile my body is. So you see, it can actually lead to putting you in hospital. And I'm going to talk a little bit later on about another documentary interview I watched over the weekend that also highlights this situation where you can actually make yourself physically very, very unwell. Now, some typical examples of things that will happen to you when you're in a toxic relationship. Initially, in the first stages, when you start to realize that something's wrong with this person in the relationship, and you know that it's just not normal, you will be feeling quite often confusion, betrayal, hopelessness, shame, not to mention extreme disappointment. Now, this emotional toll can also result in behavioral and physical side effects, and you can experience typically difficulty concentrating on a scale that goes towards extreme dissociation, moodiness, nightmares, various aches and pains, depression, feeling worthless, useless and hopeless, as I've mentioned, and feeling isolated and lonely and as if nobody can understand you. And I know from what a lot of the women in this group have shared with me, that is a really common feeling. You just feel so alone and nobody understands it, nobody gets it. Okay. Now, as this goes on, this long-term toxic abuse, it can lead to, it can lead to complex PTSD. And I'll just very quickly explain the difference between standard PTSD and complex PTSD. Now, standard PTSD is when you have experienced or witnessed a single incident that was really traumatic for you. It could have been seeing a car crash, or you know, having an awful accident, or just any one thing that really just knocked you for six. And you have flashbacks, and every time you think about it, you get into a panic and all of that. Now, complex PTSD is a result of a series of events layered over each other, layered on top of each other, sometimes over years. And that leads to much more complicated symptoms of post-traumatic stress disorder. And you can be living with this in a constant state of PTSD for years. And typical symptoms of C-PTSD are all the common anxiety-related ones. So your heart's beating too fast, muscle tension, sweating, shaking, headaches, dizziness, chest pain. And sustained abuse over this time can also then lead you to having a lot of mood issues and personality issues. So angry outbursts whenever you have a chance to get away from your abuser, inability to control your emotions. You could be crying a lot or unexpectedly. Also being easily startled or frightened. Constantly having negative, fearful thoughts. Inability to trust anyone. This is very, very common. Also very common is insomnia and nightmares, or really bad quality sleep. And of course, reliving the trauma. If you've had several or lots of incidences that were really traumatic at the time, but maybe you've been subjected to physical abuse, your mind will keep playing those over again, and you have flashbacks, or you keep reliving them. And you're actually experiencing the same kind of physical symptoms when this happens as when you actually were in the moment, in the incident as it was happening. So you'll get all those panic or anxiety attacks again. Other extreme problems it can cause is inability to even be able to speak to anyone, or to function properly, or to go about your daily chores and tasks, or to do your job properly. And also feeling faint, or just needing to lie down because you just can't cope. Now, in extreme cases, if it's left untreated, C-PTSD can result in suicide, self-harming, drug or alcohol misuse or addiction, and the other common one, of course, is overeating, because we eat for comfort. Lots of us do it. I know I've done it. So these are really, really bad. Now, the other thing that's important for you to know is that all of these symptoms of complex PTSD persist even after you've left the relationship. So it's not a case of, right, I've left the relationship, I'm out of all that shiz now, I'm going to be fine. You won't necessarily be, because those symptoms will persist, and they will persist until you get help to deal with them. Long term, bottling up these emotions, they just fester and fester and fester. And this is so bad for you psychologically and physically. And what happens is that with this sustained abuse that goes on for years and years and years, it can and does lead to more serious illnesses. Because when you're living in a constant state of hyper-arousal, and that's not the good kind of arousal, I'm talking about constantly walking on eggshells, not knowing from 1 minute to the next how or what your narc is going to say or do. And there's this constant stream of adrenaline flowing through your veins. And you know there's the fight, flight, or freeze situation where you're either going to fight, you're going to flee, or you freeze. With the narc, you're absolutely damned whichever of those options you choose, because nothing you say or do is ever going to be right. So you're constantly living on a knife edge. and your body is not functioning the way it's meant to. You really are living on this knife edge. It's a nightmare to have to live like this. And then what happens is your body starts to break down due to this prolonged stress overload. And this type of stress is what can and does lead to things like heart attacks, cancer, hypertension, just to mention a very, very few. And again, I reiterate, these symptoms do not go away once you get out of the relationship. And there's two reasons for that. One is because the body has learned to live in this constant state of stress, almost like it becomes normal for you, but it's not. This constant barrage of verbal abuse changes the neural pathways in your brain, and it completely distorts what you once held to be true about yourself. Or in the case of childhood narcissistic abuse or sexual abuse, it's subconsciously reinforcing these deeply held beliefs that you've had about your true value and worth. So this is a chemical and emotional cocktail that's devastating to your emotional and mental health. So I said I'd give you another example of this documentary I watched at the weekend. And I just came across it on Facebook when I was browsing, and it's a woman called Marilyn von Derber. Absolutely beautiful woman. She's probably in her, I would say, easily in her mid-60s now. And she's a really captivating woman to listen to. I'm going to post the link after I've done this video today. I'm going to put the link in there because I'd really like you all to watch it. Now, she was the victim of incest. Her father abused her from the time she was 5 till she was 18. So 11 years of frequent nightly visits. And she never told anyone. And she said, you live a lifetime of isolation. Ironically, she was actually a public speaker, a very, very successful one, but she was always alone. She said, I'd go and speak to hundreds of people on stage, then I'd go home I would go to my hotel and I would be alone. I would eat dinner and I would be alone. She said, you don't have relationships with anyone. She only had a relationship with her father. And she said, that's like a sugar pill laced with arsenic. She also said, I married into a situation that was abusive. We choose because we feel unlovable. We have to marry into relationships where we're not treated well because we don't believe we deserve to be treated well. So she was absolutely spot on in that. And it took her years and years of therapy to finally come to terms with what happened and to fully heal. And then she went on to publicly speak out about abuse, and she's been very, very successful with that. And I think she started her own foundation. So I'm going to post that link. It's really worth listening to her because although her abuse was sexual, and I've actually since just downloaded her book and started reading it. It's called Miss America by Day because she was beautiful. She was Miss America, highly successful, picture perfect family, and she, she's just amazing to watch. But just reading between the lines of what I've read in the book so far, I'm pretty damn certain that her father was a narcissist. At the best, he was very, very controlling, and they all lived in terror of him. So I've only read the first chapter or so, but I'm pretty sure he was a narcissist as well. So after all that doom and gloom, what can you do if your health is suffering because of sustained narcissistic abuse? So I'm going to talk through a few things now that I would recommend. One of the most important things that you can do, first and foremost, is reach out for support. If you can find a family member or a friend to confide in, please do. Because you know that saying, a problem shared is a problem halved? Sometimes just having someone to listen who can understand you and believe you can just make you feel so much better, okay? But it comes with a caveat. I would say make sure that that person is not someone who knows you're a narcissist, or at the very least make sure it's someone who doesn't like your narcissist, because we know how they can twist things around. So you want to have someone who's what I call your safe person. And of course, I'm going to say groups like this one, reach out to a group like this, get support from other women who've been through and are going through what you're going through, okay? And share what you're going through. Reach out and ask for advice. You know, we're all here to help. I'm always here. I'm always going to answer questions in the group, okay? Now, some other simple things to do, and this might sound overly simple, but it's surprising how many people overlook these things, because when you get caught up in this emotional despair, you stop taking care of yourself. So you stop eating healthily, you don't get enough exercise, you don't get out and about. So my advice, look at your diet, try and eat more healthily, get some exercise, get out and about and walk in nature if you possibly can. Basically, take care of yourself. You're already being abused enough by the narcissist in your life, so don't add to that by neglecting these other areas of care for yourself, okay? Other things, obviously, are get plenty of rest and try and get good sleep if you can. And I know that sleep issues are a big problem with a lot of the women I work with who do suffer with narcissistic abuse. But if you can, you know, try and get something that will help you to sleep. I swear by meditation and brainwave entrainment, I cured my own insomnia years ago. And I listen to meditation music every night before I go to sleep. And talking of meditation, absolutely start meditating. Now, meditation is not woo-woo. It's extremely easy to do. It costs absolutely nothing. And all you have to do is just sit down and quiet your mind, focus on your breathing, just in and out, and this will calm you down. Your brain needs a little bit of space. It needs a little bit of peace from all the shit that's going on in your life. So try meditating. Just do it for a couple of minutes at a time and do it several times a day, okay? Definitely recommend that. Now, something else that's really, really important is to be optimistic. And I know this can be really, really hard when you are knee deep in an awful narcissistic relationship and you can't see a way out. Put that to the side and be optimistic. Envisage a bright future for yourself. Sit there and play in your mind the movie of how you want your life to be. Narcissist-free, living in harmony with yourself, you know? Just do it. Don't put thoughts in your way that, oh, well, that's no good because I'm in this relationship and I can't get out. Put all that to the side and just focus on a peaceful reality for yourself. And this is a part of visualization, creatively visualizing how you want your life to be. And again, this will give you respite from all the stuff you're having to go through. I think this is even more important if you're still in the relationship and there's really no way out for you, because I do know that there are some women in this group who, for various reasons, cannot get out of the relationship. In that case, it's even more important that you find a way to find inner harmony and peace in your mind, okay? And now, of course, my next very, very strong piece of advice to you is to get a therapist. Obviously, I'm a therapist. I work with women to help them overcome abuse, and I'll tell you a little bit more about how I do that in a minute. But the most important thing with working with a therapist is to make sure that you work with someone who knows their way around NPD, which is Narcissistic Personality Disorder, in case you don't know, but I'm sure you do, and abuse. Now, that's really important because I've heard some horror stories about therapists who actually did more harm than good, unwittingly, of course, but just make sure it's someone who knows their way around this subject, okay? And then my final piece of advice is that really, really important piece of advice. Don't believe that you can't get out of the relationship. Don't believe that you can't get over the pain, because you can. I work with women to help them overcome the abuse, and it works, okay? Now, I use a very powerful form of therapy known as NLP, or neuro-linguistic programming. It's a bit of a mouthful. Now, neuro refers to your neurology, basically your brain. Linguistic refers to language patterns and how you use it. And programming refers to how that neural language functions. Now, I studied NLP and Ericksonian hypnosis for a year at St Anne's Hospital in London under the direct supervision of Stephen Brooks, who's the founder of the British Hypnosis Research and Training School. He was marvellous. And I graduated with a diploma in 1993, and I then went on to do a degree in psychology. Now, I chose NLP because the results I saw people getting in just a couple of sessions just blew me away. Now, I'd grown up with the idea that if you had emotional issues, you'd need to spend years in psychotherapy or psychoanalysis to heal. But here I was, during my training, seeing this evidence right before my eyes that this simply wasn't true. NLP was curing people of PTSD, fears, phobias, obsessive compulsive disorders, and many other things in a matter of a few sessions. It's by far the most effective form of therapy for rapid and lasting personal change that I've ever come across, and I've studied a lot of other models of therapy. But in my mind, nothing comes close to NLP. And what's wonderful about NLP is that it's completely non-invasive. Sessions can be carried out without the client ever even having to speak. It's a brilliant form of therapy. Now, in addition to that, I also use light and deep trance work, inner child healing, which I think is tremendously powerful and tremendously important. And I also use life coaching to help my clients recover, and fast, from narcissistic abuse. So don't believe that you can't be healed, and don't believe that it's going to take years and years and years to get over it, because you can heal, and you can heal quickly. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you found that interesting and helpful, and if so, please hit like and subscribe for more videos. I'll be posting new videos every week. Now, if you'd like to hear more tips and connect personally with me, check out the links below this video, and you can also join my closed Facebook group, Infinite Self-Worth After Narcissistic Abuse. Now, this is a women's only group with exclusive content every week, so do check out those links below, and I'll see you again soon. Bye for now, and thanks again for watching. I appreciate your time. Thank you.